Hello guys and welcome back to a new Dead Souls video. Today we're going to be doing a build that I just recently found out was pretty good. The build literally mentions 3 of the weapons that we're going to be using. The build should be on screen now. We're going to be using shrapnel axes, the boy's axe, and throwing knife with 2 turrets. Basically ensuring that the enemies are permanently stunned and we're dealing a lot of damage. Now the mutations, as you may see already, are acrobatic packs, so we can spam that knife. We also have Ripper, which allows us to deal some extra damage with our melee axe, actually. So when you Ripper out the boy's axe, it actually does the Ripper damage, and it also does the boy's axe pull damage. So you basically do twice the damage by ripping out the axe. Now, a simple fun fact with this weapon is that it's pretty simple to use, but in the past they used to be able to have 2 charges. So when you get the ammo mutation, he was able to have 2 charges of the axe, meaning you can deal more damage, and also having 75% bonus damage towards rooted targets also means that the weapons are going to have some bonus damage on the side. Now, ripping out things with the shrapnel axes, which is our main weapon in damage, it's also used for ranged attack, melee attack, primarily for melee attacks since you don't use any charges. Yeah, that's our main weapon, and usually our main weapon is statistically supposed to be better than our secondary weapon, but in this case, the boy's axe actually does more damage than shrapnel axes, which is really funny to me. But the reason why it does more damage is because of how Ripper functions. The mutation, the worst mutation in the game probably, and it's really strong for one-shot builds with shrapnel axes. The boy's axe is its primary weapon and is the only weapon you should be using in the Ripper builds, except shrapnel axe. Shrapnel axes also synergize pretty well. But besides the shrapnel axes, the other weapon that synergizes really well is the boy's axe. Shrapnel axes synergize well because they're melee and they can actually perform the synergy with the Ripper alone and you don't actually need any other weapons. But the boy's axe is also good because it does twice the damage when you Ripper it. That's the only reason why we are doing this build. It's pretty strong overall. Now, why would we ever go with this build and not something else? Well, it's pretty simple actually. This build is really easy to use, and like personally, boss damage, like at the beginning, boss damage with this build is pretty weak. But as you go forward, as you get more scrolls, the boss damage actually gets pretty good. Now, the best weapon in the backpack to use with this is definitely going to be the multiple knocks bow, which is the secondary use for multiple knocks bow, a backpack weapon for Ripper builds. Ripper builds also do so much damage. I probably mentioned this a few times now, but this is true. And the footage that we are seeing, Ripper is like taking half of an HP bars from like tanky targets. We also have the potential to deal AoE damage considering the fact that we have multiple turrets. Like we can one-shot most enemies except these big ugly cannon guys. They're kind of not that one-shotable, and elite enemies, they're obviously a little bit tankier. And yes, we do use support as our third mutation. And sometimes it's kind of good to like relax and choose one of the, I guess not best mutations in the game, but just surely one of the better ones. Annihilation is a mutation that I choose when I'm like 20% HP going into the Cursed Chest biomes. Any Cursed Chest biome, really. I choose it just to heal up, so I have to spend my potions, flask, I guess. But usually like one of the best mutations in the game, and we are definitely using one of the worst and best mutations in the game. Sure, killing 5 more enemies is definitely could be scary for a curse, especially if you're new to the game and you don't know how to like properly dodge and stuff. But Usually, like getting all these like cursed buffs is way more worth it than not getting them. In the long run, it doesn't matter if you are cursed for taking twice as much damage, 4 times as much damage, considering the fact that if you make a mistake, that's it. There goes all your HP bar. But if you don't make a mistake, then you're rewarded for it. Also, one of the key things about the cursed weapons and just cursed modifiers is the fact that even if you get a cursed modifier, you definitely won't feel like you have a cursed modifier because you're killing things so quickly. But once you get to the boss, once you get to the first boss, second, third boss, that's when things get kind of interesting, considering the fact that these bosses, they're not your atypical enemy. They deal more damage, have more HP, and take limited damage. This build that we're using currently has one major weakness, and the weakness is that simple fact that we can't crit. Critting in this game allows us to get one mutation that's pretty good, and I like it. It's called Instinct of the Master of Arms. What it does is it reduces cooldowns anytime you crit with a specific weapon. Now, you can crit with the majority of weapons, but this build that we are using has exactly 0 crit potential. Nothing in our build can crit, and that's kind of a problem if you ask me, considering the fact that like critting doubles our damage, or I can't say doubles it, considering the fact that this game uses different modifiers for buffing damage. So every weapon does different damages at different stages, considering the fact that that's how scaling works. So something like the katana can deal more damage when it's critting, but it can deal less damage when it's not. But the shrapnel axis can actually deal more damage when it's not critting, and almost deal more damage when it is critting. Unfortunately, we don't actually flawless in the concierge boss because melee sucks against this guy and kind of get thumped, but we do manage to take him down. It was quite a tough fight. Concierge is like one of the worst bosses to fight with melee weapons, and I highly recommend skipping this boss if you have melee weapons in general. Now our next stop, most of the time I go with Sanctuary. Slumbering Sanctuary is like one of the easiest spots to break. We also got a legendary toothpick that we're not going to be using, considering the fact that it's a weapon that's not made for purple at all. So yeah, we're not going to be using it. Sure, the Slumbering Sanctuary is pretty easy, and I do sell a lot of the food that I get in this game, and it's not because I don't want to eat the food, it's because it's poison. Poison food malaise kinda hurts the whole point of trying to speedrun the game or trying to not get as much malaise as possible. Getting malaise makes it so that enemies attack faster, deal more damage, teleport faster, they spawn around you, they elite, and so on and so forth. The more bars of malaise you get, the harder the game gets. Fortunately for us, we're keeping the bar pretty low at like 1 to 3, so we're barely getting to the point where enemies are eliting, which is pretty good. And yes, since I haven't played this game in such a long time, so I've kind of forgotten how to play it. And not even that's not even the main issue. I'm not trying to make excuses here. I'm not trying to make excuses at all. I haven't played it in such a long time that I kind of forgot how like the game functions at a certain point. Like I didn't even know about like what was that and stuff in the new updates. And so I didn't know if like my old builds that I used to run all the time were bad or good anymore. I could have been totally wrong. I could have been like Ripper would have been the worst mutation in the game when I was playing it, but it could be the best mutation now, right? I might be incorrect on that, but I still think Ripper is probably like the worst mutation in the game. There are definitely better mutations than Ripper, and so that's why I don't really like Ripper builds. But this one was like that. This one stood out to me when I found it out. When I absolutely found out about this build, I was like, yeah, I have to do this build now. It just has so much potential, does so much damage. It's quick damage as well. Bosses, you could shred bosses late game. It's really good. The only weakness again that I'm saying is that you can't crit them. Instinct of the Master of Arms is definitely one of the core things you're missing. Since you are gonna go with this double turret setup. Usually when you're playing purple, it's always the best move to get the double turret setup, which is getting the Crusher and getting the Cannon. Crusher slows enemies and slows bosses as well. Does a lot of damage. Cannot crit unfortunately, but does a ton of damage anyways. It doesn't matter. And the Cannon again stuns enemies. It has the higher values. Provides a lot of damage as well. It's ranged, I guess. Mainly, but it's ranged. And so yeah, that's kind of how that goes. Usually when you go to the cavern, your first 3 things that you do in the cavern are find shops, upgrade items. At that, upgrade items, upgrade weapons. Now, we did manage to somehow upgrade our shrapnel axe, which is pretty good for us, but that's besides the point right now, since we just upgraded our shrapnel axes. In general, our main goal in the cavern is to upgrade our weapons without losing HP or as many flasks as we usually do, since the gameplay is simply like how should I put this? The cavern just offers us some good assistance in the usual runs, but in this one we definitely kind of needed that cavern a little bit to help us, and so on and so forth again. And like once you get to the later stages, you start one-shotting with this build, and I start to love this build once we get to the later stages. It's such a good build. Like the giant, the even the Hand of the King, they're like nobodies to this build. Just decides at the one point that it wants to crush its enemies. Now in the end we lost, but I did have my revenge in the next video that I'm going to be posting. We did have our revenge. We managed to beat the final boss. We defeated him on viable souls. We defeated the boss, and we did do pretty well against them as well. We used a build that's kind of weird, but the build kind of worked, and that was all there was to it. But anyway guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.